All right, I wanted to post this new video. I've got a solo cloud run, Bonds of Friendship. It's a heavy physical build. I've got a 500 plus attack stat with cloud. It's a super fun run and build to utilize. I'm typically do a mage build, but this was just a nice way to switch it up. And so posted the video and hope everyone enjoys it. All right, we got round one versus Titan. The majority of this run is just going to basically be utilizing Prime Mode, utilizing Sonic Boom, utilizing Plasma Discharge, and just kind of, being relentless with Punisher Mode counters as well. And as you can see here, just did most of that, and then was able to also get an Aerial Onslaught in and a Braver in, which stuns Titan. And once Titan is stunned, basically the round could be over pretty quickly. You want to get him into stagger state by using focused thrusts. And then once you do that, you want to build up 2 ATB. You want to make sure that your bravery buff via Sonic Boom is charged up. You want to use a stop, and then you can just do Aerial Onslaught and or Braver to drain the HP down and get a win. And that's the easiest way to do this round, and it's a pretty nice technique.
You're gonna feel this. Never doubt.
All right, the next round is Hueycoatl. So this round is just going to be a lot about going into Punisher mode and really just relentlessly countering those jump attacks that he just did and the claw attacks. And then so we're going to want to stagger him. Using Sonic Boom starts to pressure him. He'll always do that up in the air, kind of, flying and lightning attacks. But a lot of those head first charges, so you need to counter those. Those build ATB every time as well. And essentially here, so you want to get to a point where you can stop him. The only challenge with the stop here is that sometimes he jumps up in the air, like right when you're casting the stop, and that basically does not help you. So you want to use the focus thrust as soon as you stop him, and you can use up to 3 if he's on the ground. And you can see what that does to the pressure gauge. So that's just the one annoying thing to look out for. And typically I've found if he's on the ground doing those claw slaps, then he's not going to jump up in the air after he does 3 of them. But just be careful when he jumps at you, because if you try stop after that, a lot of times he jumps in the air. Anyway, so you just keep going through, and essentially it's the same sort of pattern where he either jumps at you and you counter it, or he does the slashes. So with his claws, and you're just going to counter that. He'll do a fulment every now and then, but if you're good at parrying, so you can just simply parry that, and then you just do it, sneak in some more focus thrust until you get him staggered. Check your buff always, so you can have the bravery buff high, then stop him, and then use the Aerial Onslaught at least once, twice, as long as you have enough time. Then you can also sneak a Braver in here, and it becomes pretty simple from there, as he has very little HP at this point. He's still dangerous, so you want to be careful of getting caught up in that random lightning that comes from when he flies up in the air, as that can paralyze you. But that's really the only danger in this round. Everything else is pretty simple, and that's it. Next round is Phoenix. This is probably the easiest round of the whole run. So with the build, so we have elemental protection against fire. Most of Phoenix's attacks are fire based, so that makes the round a lot easier. Start up Prime mode, and then so you want to basically the thing to be concerned about is the 3 spawns that Phoenix has. So it's Flan, a bomb, and Grand Horn. So you could take all of them out with Braver and maybe a few attacks after on the Flan, but that should dispatch them. For buffs, you want to use Prime mode, you want to use Haste, you want to use Plasma Discharge, and then right before, so you beat Grand Horn, so you definitely want to hit a Sonic Boom on Phoenix, as that can basically allow you to stagger him, and then to get him defeated before he goes into the Rebirth Flame, which isn't a big deal with this run because again he can't do fire damage to you. You literally gain HP there, but that's the fastest way to get a win. And so as you see, you just kind of stick with it to stagger him. So what you want to do is when his pressure gauge opens up after you beat Grantorn, he'll want to do focused thrust. It'll take 4 of them, and sometimes he can kind of be a pain and scoot out of the way of one. But so there's 1, and there's 2. So he's got about half filled pressure gauge. You're going to build up 2 ATB, and then you want to do 2 more. So there's 1 there, and there's another there, and that staggers him. And then if you check your bravery buff, it's high enough here. You can do Aerial Onslaught like I did there, and so you can do another one as well, or alternatively you can just do a braver, and that should take him out. But very easy round. All right, round 4, Brineborn Demon. So you're going to want to step to the left and go into Punisher mode counters, and so there'll be about 3 or 4 of them. You want to sneak in a Sonic Boom as well in between his attacks. So there it is there. And now you just want to keep countering and get a Sword Slash in, which will start his pressure gauge. There it is, right? So it says counter stance, the pressure stage comes. Then you want to stop him. And on this, so you don't need prime modes, you can just use regular Punisher mode and do these sword slashes here. See the pressure gauge going up. Then you want to do 3 focus thrusts if you have ATB boost, so you can do 3. That should stagger him, and then you want to check your buff. So the bravery buff there looks good, and then I did Aerial Onslaught twice. That's usually enough to take him out. I've had it happen where sometimes you need an extra attack or 2, but in this case it worked, and that's it. Pretty easy round. All right, the 5th round is Kujata. This is the one round where I used offensive magic because it just makes the round so much easier. So as you know with Kujata, if you fought him before, he has all of these gores. They can all be countered by Punisher mode, which gets you some good ATB. Ferocious Lion, avoid that. You're just going to keep your distance from it as it can paralyze you. He does a Bull Rush too. That can be countered as well. So you want to get up and running against Kujata. You want to get Prime Mode, Plasma Discharge, Haste, and Sonic Boom, and you want to keep that Sonic Boom going too, and it fades away. And then it's just about doing as much damage as you can to him. He's going to turn into the elemental forms, and as soon as he turns into the elemental forms, based on this build, so you can attack any of them. So with the proper elemental, that maximizes the damage. So in this case, he has a lightning form, so I'm using Aroga, and I'm going to use it twice here. And what that's going to do is it's going to pressure him, and that's why I use the magic here, because once you pressure Kujata, so you can end the fight a lot faster. So there's the pressure. Now you want to get 1 ATB for a stop spell. Make sure Kujata's on the ground too, and that he's not up in the air. So he's on the ground here, so you stop him. Then you can see the pressure gauge is at about half. And of course, we're going to use as many focus thrusts as possible to get that into stagger. And I think we do get it into stagger right there. Now, you want to, so if you look at the buffs, so you don't have a bravery buff, so you want to do a Sonic Boom. And then, so you want to get up at least 1 ATB, do an Aerial Onslaught, right? So you want to sneak in another stop. His stop is going to have much lower durability, but you can do Bravers here, as it probably saves you time over doing another Aerial Onslaught. And so you can see that was pretty effective, and you've drained a lot of Kujata's energy. Avoid the Thunderous Stomp, but he's basically down to about 5-10% HP. So with some, Primo Chops and a Braver, that's the end of the round. All right, the next round is round 6 against Ironclad. This round, I typically play slow and methodical. Prime mode, Sonic Boom to start, so you also want to get Plasma Discharge and Haste too. I tend to work on the outside and tend to work around Ironclad, so when he does cast a spell like Faraga, first of all, it's going to give you HP. Second of all, that's when you can get inside, because that animation, it lasts like a little bit of time, and he can't do anything. So with his sword then, so you can get inside and do some prime mode sword slashes and you know, get Plasma Discharge involved. Ironclad is weak to lightning, and you can also sneak in a Braver every now and then, and that's a nice way to just, you know, slowly and methodically drain down the HP of Ironclad. Of course, so when he does the sharpens, you got to be careful with that. Those sword slashes from him can really, you know, take you out. The crush animation too is another time where it's perfectly safe to get inside and do damage. The other time too is that so when he uses Graviga like here, you can stop him, and then you want to check your buff and make sure that you have a bravery buff going, and then do an aerial onslaught, and that's a way to kind of, you know, take off a decent amount of HP safely. You can also do some prime mode slashes and even sneak a Braver in that whole sequence. So you took off a good amount of HP there, and it was all, you know, pretty safe. You were behind him, so that's something to do, because if Graviga hits, it will take you down to 1 HP. You know, so it's good to try and avoid that, and that stop sequence it knocks him out of doing it. But that's basically, I mean, there's not much more to say about this round besides avoiding all of the attacks from Ironclad and just in the circumstances which I talked about. So when he casts magic, so when he does that, you know, attempt to grab you, right, and when he casts Graviga to use stop, those are the times to really get your damage in. And, you know, the damage can come primarily via Braver or Aerial Onslaught if you stop him. I wouldn't do the Aerial Onslaught unless you do stop him, only because he has a lot of time to just knock you out of the air, and it will do like 4,000 damage to you. So that is pretty much it, and then it's just, you know, again, slowly and methodically around him, and just see. And there's a sword slash there that I stayed inside too long, and that was what, 4,500 damage or so. And that's what I'm talking about. And that's why just in a gauntlet sort of environment here, where it's like, you know, you've already invested a bunch of time in the first 5 rounds, I tend to play it safe. And he's like one more attack here, and he's going to be done. And that's it. All right, unlike the previous round, so in round 7 here with Alexander, so we're going to go right at him and try to end this quickly. ATB boost, prime mode. Now, I was supposed to do Plasma Discharge here, but I misentered Sonic Boom. So you want to do Plasma Discharge, it's optimal. It didn't matter, but it's just a better timing is to activate that there. You go to the right arm, right? So you want to take off via just prime mode, half HP, and then you do a Braver, go over to the left arm and do the same exact thing. It's pretty simple, and if you stay behind, it's tough for Alexander to even get any damage on you. That now he's pressured, so of course we're going to go back to focus thrusts and take him over the edge into stagger state. So there's 2, you can see he's close there, and then he can just slash away in prime mode and get that staggered. You want to check your buff. The bravery buff here is high, so you can just do 2 aerial onslaughts, and that is it. It is that simple. Sometimes he does a teleport. He can make it a little hard, but you just want to take the arms out, get him staggered, and then do aerial onslaught, and that's it. All right, now we have Mindflayer. A little bit more of a challenging battle than so with the dual sort of battles, because it's a lot harder to stagger him. But prime mode, Plasma Discharge, and now you want to counter the whips and then just attack him with strong attacks from prime mode. Keep doing this. The HP will eventually drain, and you can see it's already starting to drain while you're taking very little damage. You can sneak a Braver in every now and then. When the telekinesis happens, you want to sneak another Braver in and just keep kind of relentlessly chopping away. He's in Psychotic Break again. Don't get greedy here because that attack can just take you out, but certainly can get a couple more attacks in. Now you're just going after him again. And so the goal here is, so you want to get him down to about 30% HP or so, and you want to have the bravery buff going via Sonic Boom. And once you do that, so he sometimes teleports and things too, which can be annoying. It could cause you to like miss a Braver. It's also a good time to use a Sonic Boom though. Now, so he's getting close to 25-30%. I typically stop him here. He's susceptible to stop, and you can get a full stop in, and then you just, can do the Aerial Onslaught. That will do a lot of damage. There'll still be time left on the stop, so you can go back into Prime mode and either sneak in a Braver or just chop away, and that should do it. It's pretty easy. All right, now we've got round 9, Bahamut Arisen. I found this battle pretty hard. He always starts out the same way, so go into Punisher mode and just counter these first 2 attacks, and then you want to start adding in the different buffs and weapon skills. So you want to go into Prime mode, so you want to do a Plasma Discharge, so you want to get haste going, and right before he goes into the Particle Charge mode, where he's not attacking, you want to throw out a Sonic Boom. And it is important to keep that Sonic Boom going, because so you'll need the extra damage on the wings and things like that. You can block the Vulcan Onslaught, and there's a lot of moves in general you can counter from Bahamut. I avoid the Crush Grip, but you can do a parry on that as well. So now you want to throw out the Particle Charges on, you want to throw out a Sonic Boom, and then you want to get inside, and to break the wings, I use Braver. There might be other ways to do it, but I found this to be the easiest. And it's all about positioning, so you want to position yourself like slightly in front of the wing. If you have the wrong position, it will miss or it will hit Bahamut and not the wing. But here, I was able to break both. And you see the pressure gauge is starting, so you just want to get 2 ATB as fast as possible and use as many focused thrusts as we can. You can safely get in 2, sometimes 3, but most of the time 2, so you can get in. And then he transforms. And this transforms to a Gale Wind Slash, and he does a Whirlwind Slash. Those can be countered, so you definitely want to take advantage of that and not eat the damage there. So he goes back into Particle Charge, and again, important to try and break the wings as efficiently as possible. Like, don't spend time on anything else. Just kind of position yourself right in front of the wings and use Braver on both. Then, so you can see the pressure gauge is about slightly over 50%. You want to do more focused thrusts here to get Bahamut as close as possible to being staggered. He'll transform again, and so you just want to, when he transforms, I try to avoid him unless it's things that so you can clearly counter. In this mode, he's throwing out a lot of projectiles which you can block, and so when he goes into the Neo Drive mode, he's certainly doing attacks that are more powerful. The homing barrage can be blocked pretty easily. Be sure you do block that. It can paralyze you. It's this grim upheaval here, which does big damage. I typically try and just do a regular block on it, and because avoiding it I found to be very hard. And I do have healing magic here because Bahamut can just do so much damage. So I keep my HP high, but he could be pretty relentless. But eventually he'll get back into the Particle Charge, and it's the same deal. So you want to do a Braver on each wing, and if you have to build up ATB, do it as quickly as you possibly can. So the left wing was broken, and now I'm going to be able to break the right wing, and now Bahamut is very close to being staggered. And so, building up ATB to do a focus thrust, there it is, and that puts him over the edge. So you can take a look. There's no buffs on right now, so we have to get the bravery buff back and going via Sonic Boom. There it is. Now you can do an Aerial Onslaught. It takes off a lot of energy here. Also have a full limit, so may as well use that as well. And in this physical build, even a level 1 limit takes off a lot of health. And that was enough to beat him. All right, we're finally on round 10 with Odin, and beating Odin is all about being relentless, right? So you should immediately, his first attack, he's either going to throw a spear at you or charge you. So counter that, get Prime Mode going, get Plasma Discharge going. So you eventually want to get haste going, and so I do a re-raise here too to try and stack the deck because Odin is pretty hard here, and then again, we've invested so much time into this at this point. I really do want to win this fight. And so you also want to have Sonic Boom and be active with that. So the Helm Cleaver, I got hit by it. It's important to try and not get hit by it because it opens up Odin to do reprisals. And there's just a period of time where you have to be careful if he does hit you with it. You can see the rings around the wrists there, so I'm being careful here to not do a braver spell. I'm sorry, a braver attack or things like that because he can just counter it and throw a spear at you in the middle of it. So eventually the rings go away, and so the goal is to really get Odin to use Sleipnir's Furor and to go into pressure mode, and so you have to do a number of different attacks, right? So he snuck a braver in there, so you have to do a number of different counters too, and there's the Sleipnir's Furor, and you want to do immediate focus thrust to get that pressure gauge up, and you just want to avoid getting inside on Odin too, especially with things like that. Anything pink like that is something where so you can get the reprisal, so avoid that. The Swift Punishment can be countered, and then another focus thrust sets him into stagger mode, and so you want to make sure your buffs are there in terms of bravery and do Aerial Onslaught. That takes off the most, and there it is. And then you can just go into Prime Mode or sneak in a Braver, and then go into Prime Mode and just try and do as much damage as possible. He's going to split the screen, and this is where he gets pretty dangerous, and so you just have to be careful of two things. One, him just doing a strong attack that takes you out, or two, if you don't do enough variety of moves, he will do the Jallarhorn's Warning and then hit Zantetsuken or start Zantetsuken, which is pretty much unavoidable max damage. So here it's sneak in a Braver, you can sneak in Punisher mode attacks, but you want to also counter, right? So that's another thing that sometimes people forget to do that causes Jallarhorn's Warning to get going. Keep your HP high. So we have a limit. That's good because the Temporal Imprisonment, it will come. He usually does that, and that saves you from getting imprisoned there. And but there's other moves that you have to avoid by Odin, and there's Temporal Imprisonment. So we'll do a limit, and the limit does good damage too with the physical build. So that got resisted. He'll do the ring here, the Ring of Helheim. Avoid that. Just roll out of that as fast as possible. And Shimmering Blade is one of his worst attacks, I feel like, but you have to stay away from it. There's Jallarhorn's Warning. So now, because he did that, it's pretty much imperative to try and kill him as fast as possible, right? And so, just did the re-raise, almost out of MP, just get hit by a Ring of Helheim. It's not looking too good, but you got to stick with it, right? And that's what I'm trying to do here. Odin's very low. He's close. There it is. There's Zantetsuken. But because he was so low, and because I was close to 1 ATB, was able to sneak in a Braver and knock him out of Zantetsuken by defeating him. So that's the run. That's the gauntlet. I hope everyone liked it. It's a fun build, and I hope everyone tries it out.
Thanks to you, my archives are filling up with obtaining all that intel.
All right, for the build, so centered around Sleek Saber gives you great attack stats, and then the Cetron Bracer, and I use the Space Ranger Medal of Honor for the accessory. Some people use the Genji earring, some people use the Fury ring. I like this because it not only enhances attack very high, but it also has an enhancement for defense as well, which the others, which Fury ring and the Genji earrings don't have. They actually, up your damage potential as well as your attack potential. So that's just a little rub that I don't see a lot of people using this, but it's something to consider because, again, in these gauntlets, defense is important and keeping your HP high is important. So that's just one thing I wanted to mention here. Now I'll just run through the materia here, but again, thanks everyone for watching the video. I'll also put the materia in the text and the description for the YouTube video. And I encourage everyone to try out a build like this. There's some other combinations that you can use too, but this is a fun build to work with. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for viewing.